There are moments in history that never make the reports. Moments where the world shifts, quietly, invisibly, because one person refused to break. Not a general, not a commander, not a decorated hero, but someone the system never thought to notice. This is one of those stories. Fort Helman sat at the edge of the northern mountains, a vast installation carved into red stone and wind. Convoys roared in and out, soldiers marched past in perfect formation, officers barked orders, and warplanes screamed overhead. But deep inside the communications wing existed a room few cared to enter, a dim chamber of dusty radios, humming servers, tangled wires, and neglected files. The place soldiers joked was where careers went to disappear, and in that room sat the operator nearly everyone ignored. Specialist Lena Avery. She was the kind of soldier no one remembered at first glance. Quiet, soft-spoken, steady hands, hair tied in a simple knot, her uniform crisp but never loud, her posture disciplined but never demanding attention. Every morning at 0500, Lena reported to the comms bunker. She logged transmissions, rerouted encrypted frequencies, monitored satellite channels, noted troop movements, and copied down coordinates with surgical precision. To most, it looked like clerical work, something for soldiers who weren't built for the field. And in a base full of booming egos and competitive fire, Lena Avery became easy to overlook. Even her supervisor, Sergeant Dalka, a man known for his abrasive confidence, dismissed her with a flick of his hand. "You're sharp, Avery," he often said, "but you're not cut out for the real operations. Leave the dangerous stuff to the ones who can handle pressure." He said it like a joke. He meant it as a reminder. Yet no one knew the truth about her. No one saw the medal recommendation buried in a cabinet after her deployment had been cut short by an injury. No one saw the battlefield commendation that never reached her record because the mission had been classified. No one knew that Lena had once held the radio for an entire platoon trapped in an enemy kill box and guided them out under fire. They certainly didn't know the price she had paid, because even now, months later, a thin scar hid beneath her sleeve, a silent reminder of shrapnel that had torn into her arm during that mission. She had bled quietly then, just as she lived quietly now. To Fort Helman, she was simply the girl in the radio room. Background noise, invisible, until the day the base gates opened for a visiting ranger detachment, and history came looking for her. It happened on a blistering afternoon. Convoys of armored trucks approached the parade yard, their engines low and heavy. Soldiers stopped what they were doing, watching as a group of battle-hardened Army Rangers stepped out. Gear dusted from the road, movements sharp, expressions carved by years of conflict. At the front walked Captain Mason Hale, a man soldiers whispered about, a legend in the mountain campaigns, decorated, respected, unflinching. He was here for a briefing with the base commander, nothing more. But as he crossed the courtyard, something unexpected occurred. A scratchy radio transmission crackled from a speaker mounted on the wall nearby. Routine traffic, a simple frequency test. Lena's voice flowed through the speakers, calm, even, purposeful. "Comms check complete. Channel 3 clear. Proceed with uplink confirmation." Hale froze mid-stride. It was so sudden that the Rangers behind him nearly collided with him. He turned sharply, scanning the courtyard, eyes narrowed, searching the source of the voice. Soldiers around him paused, confused. Then he spoke, quietly, but with the force of a man reliving a moment carved into his bones. "That voice," his lieutenant blinked. "Sir?" But Hale didn't answer. He broke formation and strode across the yard, boots striking the pavement like gunshots. He pushed through clusters of personnel, heading straight for the comms building. Inside, Lena sat alone, adjusting dials, unaware that fate was walking toward her. The door swung open with a crack. She startled, turning in her seat. And standing in the doorway was Captain Hale, breathing hard, eyes locked onto her as though seeing a ghost. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. Then he took a single step forward. "It's you," he said, voice low, reverent, disbelieving. "The voice in the mountains." Lena's breath hitched. She knew exactly what he meant, exactly which night he was remembering, exactly which frequency had carried her voice into the jaws of death. But she never expected the next moment. Captain Hale, elite ranger, hardened warrior, respected across 3 commands, stood at attention and delivered a flawless salute. A stunned silence swallowed the room. The salute lingered in the stale air of the comms room, sharp, disciplined, absolute. Lena stared in disbelief, her mind scrambling to understand what she was seeing. She rose to her feet slowly, uncertain, the pencil still in her hand, trembling. "Sir, I don't understand," she whispered, but Captain Hale held the salute. "You guided my men through a death trap," he said, voice thick with memory. "You talked us through enemy fire. You kept us moving. You kept us alive." Lena swallowed hard. "You made it out. That's what mattered." Hale shook his head. "You don't know the full story." He lowered his salute only to step closer, close enough that she could see the scar along his jaw, the one she remembered hearing about in the after-action report. "That night," he said slowly, "we were pinned under machine gun fire in the northern ridge. You were patched into our channel by accident through a relay. I remember thinking you sounded calm, too calm for the chaos we were in." Lena tried to speak, but Hale continued. "You told us to hold position for 30 seconds, told us where to shift, told us how many shooters were on the slope. You gave distances like you were standing right there beside us." His voice dropped. "And then you stopped talking." Lena's fingers curled. She remembered that moment, the explosion, the shrapnel, the sudden numbness in her arm. She remembered falling sideways, clutching the radio to her chest as blood spread across the floor. "I didn't stop," she said softly. "The radio was damaged. I was trying to fix it." "What you didn't know," Hale said, "was that your last instructions gave us the angle we needed. We broke the ambush because of you." He took a deep breath, steadying the emotion trying to edge into his voice. "Specialist Avery, 12 Rangers walked out of that kill zone alive because of your voice." Behind him, Sergeant Dalka appeared, confused and irritated. "Captain Hale, sir, I wasn't aware you needed something from my operator. She's usually just handling—" Hale turned his gaze on him like a drawn blade. "Just handling?" he echoed. "Sergeant, this soldier is the reason my entire squad is breathing." Dalka stiffened, color draining from his face. Hale looked back at Lena. "You deserve recognition. You deserved it then, and you deserve it now." Lena shook her head slowly. "Sir, I was only doing my duty." "No," Hale replied. "You went beyond duty. People do their duty every day, but very few carry others through the dark while bleeding themselves." His words cut through the dust-filled quiet of the room. Outside, soldiers had begun to gather near the doorway, whispering, trying to understand why a ranger captain was standing rigidly in front of a comms operator. And then Hale said the words that froze the entire hall. "You saved me, and I don't forget the people who bring my men home." The whisper spread through the watching crowd like wind igniting dry brush. Eyes widened, backs straightened. People who had passed Lena countless times without so much as a nod now stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Dalka tried to compose himself, but Hale cut him off again. "I'll be filing an official recognition request, retroactive commendation for valor under fire." Lena blinked rapidly. "That's not necessary." "But it is," Hale insisted. "Respect isn't given to rank or noise or ego. It's given to those who act with courage when the world is collapsing." His gaze softened. "The quiet ones carry more than anyone realizes." For the first time in many months, Lena felt something shift inside her. A weight lifting, a truth acknowledged. She had carried that night alone, and now someone else was carrying it with her. The moral of the story was already writing itself in the silence. True strength doesn't shout. It endures, and arrogance always underestimates the power of those who do their duty with quiet excellence. Weeks passed, then months. But the moment in the comms room, the salute, the revelation, the truth made public, refused to fade. It spread through Fort Helman first, then along Ranger channels, then across other units. The story grew, not embellished but repeated with reverence. The operator who saved a Ranger squad with nothing but her voice. The specialist who stayed calm while bleeding. The quiet soldier a captain saluted first. Soon, young recruits entering the base were told to remember her name. Old veterans nodded when they heard it. Officers learned to think twice before dismissing the soldier in the background. Recognition did come. Lena Avery received a commendation in a ceremony far smaller than she deserved, But Captain Hale was there, standing beside her, uniform immaculate, eyes steady with respect. Afterward, he approached her privately. "You ever think about field operations again?" he asked. Lena offered a small, thoughtful smile. "I've learned something," she said. "Powerful voices don't always need to be on the front lines." "True," Hale agreed, "but the front lines need voices like yours." She shook her head, not in refusal, but in understanding. "Captain, people think radios are just equipment, signals, frequencies." She looked toward the comms room where she had once felt invisible. "But voices carry more than that. They carry fear, hope, direction, life, sometimes death. A single voice can steady a whole world if it stays steady itself." He nodded, deeply moved. "You kept us steady." The legend of Lena Avery became part of Fort Helman's unofficial history, the kind told by instructors to remind new soldiers that heroes don't always walk with medals jingling or reputations blazing. Some sit in forgotten rooms, some speak only when necessary, some bleed without witnesses, but their impact lasts longer than any shouted order. Years later, when Lena became a senior communications chief, she would often repeat the line that became her signature wisdom, one that generations of soldiers carried with them. "If you cannot see the person saving you, listen. Some heroes are heard, not seen." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories from Histofy.